What is up, my friend? It is Monday. It is a brand new week, and you are very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda. We're going to be discussing the calls, the urge, the shouts for Rio Ngamoa to get more minutes. We'll be talking about Mohamed Salah and his numbers, as well as Cody Gakpo. A little bit on Dominic SZOBOSZLAI. We'll be discussing Curtis Jones and Jamie Carragher's comments about his performances. We'll talk about the Premier League wanting a new name on the trophy every 6 years, and we'll try to figure out what exactly that means. And I've got a couple of other interesting bits and pieces that I hope will keep you guys right up to date with where we want to be with all things Liverpool Football Club related. So I think the big talking points, ladies and gents, this evening are going to be around the situation with our wingers, because, you know, the fever pitch hasn't dropped since yesterday. Lots of stats flying around about Mohamed Salah, Cody Gakpo, lots of pundits, journalists, fans calling for Rio Ngamoa to get more minutes. So we're going to try and get to the bottom of all of that and see how we feel. We'll have a little bit of love for our two centre-backs as well. Tonight we'll be talking about some brilliant numbers being put up by Ibrahim Konate and our captain Virgil van Dijk. We'll have a little look-see at the Manchester United result as well, as you guys can keep me informed on that one. It was 0-0 at half-time anyway, when I was getting ready to start the stream. So, yeah, let's have at it. Loads to get through. The first poll of the night is currently up and running. We asked, would you agree with the view that Mohamed Salah has fallen off this season? Now, there are multiple reasons why, of course. I'm not trying to say that it's just down to his own aging or whatever. Like, you do have to look at the trend situation. We have to look at the makeup of those around him, but we also have to look at an honest conversation about where we're currently at and what we need to do there. So a couple of interesting numbers flying around about the output drop off from Mohamed Salah this season, and there's one particular post from our friends at Anything Liverpool that really caught my eye, and it basically said that from the start of Mohamed Salah's time at Liverpool to now, his finishing stats or his conversion rate has really dropped off from 22% at its peak to just 8% this season. Even last season was 22% for Mohamed Salah's shot conversion, all the way down to just 8% this season. So that is quite stark contrast. I mean, to take you through some of the seasons, he had one season 22%, 16%, 14%, a couple more 17%, 15%, 16%, 22%, and now down at just 8%. That is that's not the Mohamed Salah that we've all known and loved for the past 9 or 10 years. So yeah, again, your feedback and thoughts on this very welcome. We need pacey wingers like Rio, said Tanya. Yes, Tanya, we do. And there were plenty of calls for young Rio Ngamoa to get more minutes today. And it was good to see the journalists starting to write about it as well and really say that, without doubt, like he should be getting more minutes. So Lewis Steele, just to give you a jumping off point, Lewis Steele said a few times in 2026, Rio Ngamoa has come on and done something neither winger on the pitch had been able to do in the 80 minutes beforehand. He makes defenders retreat and panic. On top of that, we had an interesting piece from Ian Ladyman of the Daily Mail, and in this piece he said that Arne Slot doesn't really think that Rio Ngamoa is quite ready for regular first team football. So I wanted to get your take on that as well, because look, I've been reading lots of stuff today from the Echo, from the Mail, from the Mirror, from the Times, the Independent, lots of journalists, and a lot of them having the same view, that it is now time to unleash Rio Ngamoa this season. And I understand that. I always have a bit of sympathy with managers who don't want to overplay young players. I get that. But at this point, I do think it feels a bit more like Arne is just willfully choosing not to give him the minutes, even though the evidence in front of his face is painting a picture that we need it. As Tanya said a moment ago, we don't really have pacey wingers, and Rio did more in the 10 minutes or so he was on the pitch than both of our other wingers did for the entirety of the game. Maybe I thought you were talking to me here, Paul. I was like, what was I laughing? I was genuinely, Paul, for a second I was getting stressed reading. I didn't know where you were going with that. Maybe Mo could enlighten us to what was so funny. Well, to be fair, Paul, somebody came in yesterday to the chat and said that it is a coping mechanism of Mo's as far as they're concerned. You know, when he misses a chance or whatever, he smiles. But I felt it was a bit more prolonged than that, personally, Paul. I thought it was a hint of sarcasm, dare I say it. It didn't feel like just a reaction, because I know where that person was coming from, and he's right. Mo has smiled at times when he's missed chances, but this felt a little bit different to me. And something just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't. Something doesn't feel right about what's happening at the club at the minute. So, Keno's just sent me on something because I know somebody's going to bring it up and say about the Indicala exclusive. This here from Indicala's account said, Arne Slot will have his review on Monday 25th of May with the Liverpool officials. The manager's job is still not safe even if Champions League qualification is achieved. The review will be moved to Tuesday 2nd of June if Liverpool are involved in the Champions League final. Now, look, this correlates with the information that I have, and I think a few others have, that there is no plan to keep him at the end of the season unless something drastic happens. My information is still that Arne will be gone in the summer. But there's been an interesting talking point, I guess, because people are starting to be maybe won back around. And like I've always said, personal opinions are absolutely welcome on here. I'm just not at that point where I think Arne's convinced me that he's the guy. I mean, even Carragher saying we're still not suited to first team football. Now, there was something from Sam Maguire that I wanted to just touch on really quickly, and more about, not really Sam's comment, but just more about the red zone idea, or this idea that Liverpool players can't be overworked and go into that. No, excuse me, it was Simon Brundish, actually. God, I'm getting this terribly wrong. My apologies. It was Simon Brundish who said basically Liverpool players going into the feared red zone, kind of mocking the sports science a bit. And I kind of wonder, why is our training so low intensity, as has been widely reported? You know, why aren't our players being put through the works a little bit more thoroughly or roughly? We've seen a huge drop-off in Liverpool's numbers this season. We just don't look like the same angry, hungry pressing machine that we were in seasons gone past. And I wanted to just touch on that as well as bring you some of the numbers in and around Dominic Szoboszlai's impressive rise and why he is the best right-back in the Premier League this year. I'll take you through why I'm saying that in a moment. Jaden. Hi, Craig. Big top dog. I'm good. Thank you, mate. I'm good. Describe in your words, what are each of the top 5 leagues known for physically, and why is the Premier League the best? Well, look, I would say, again, this is stereotyping somewhat, Jaden, but Italians you would think defensively, tactical nous. Spain, you would think a bit of flair. You know, they usually get a lot of South American players and that coming in. So you would talk about, again, kind of smaller, more technically proficient players over in Spain a lot of the time. With regards to the league, historically, you've seen a lot of African players come into that league. So physical, strong athletes. Again, as I said, I am stereotyping these leagues to try and answer your question. And then obviously the Premier League, well, we've seen them catch up a lot tactically, and physically the Premier League's always been a difficult and tough league, but the likes of nutrition and sports science, and that has been something that since my time I've been watching English football has really come in and kind of changed the landscape. You could credit the likes of Arsene Wenger, really, Gerard Houllier at Liverpool, coming in and really, you know, professionalising things. No more Monday clubs, as an example, where the lads go out in the lash. Again, I'm really stereotyping the leagues there, mate, and they all evolve, but roughly that's kind of how I describe the top leagues. And Germany then. Germany's one that I've only really started paying much attention to over the last 10 years probably. So I would say Germany is a good breeding ground for young players, you know, and they get opportunities to come through and progress at the clubs. So yeah, that's in a brief synopsis, mate, my best attempt at it. Stevie Boy said, I agree, Salah has been terrible, but the connection between the midfield and the front three has been non-existent apart from Wirtz and Hugo. I agree. Look, mate, I agree. We've talked about getting lads involved in the game as well, but there's enough stats this year to make me think that it isn't just the change in personnel at Liverpool that's leading to Salah's fall off a bit. I just wonder, is his head in it? You know, I still feel like there's something bubbling behind the scenes with Arne and him. I just don't think that relationship has been fixed. I just don't. And I think that Arne's future could play a bit of a role maybe as to what happens with Mohamed Salah in the summer. But I guess it pains me to say it, and I take no pleasure in saying it, but for me, he absolutely has dropped off this season. And I'm not saying, again, it's been done on purpose or anything, and there are extenuating circumstances, but, you know, we've seen a lot of different stats that have been showing the difference of him this season versus in other seasons. Not just goals, assists, but shot conversion rate, which I've spoken about there a moment ago. It's a tough one. It's a tough one because I really, hoped that we'd see out the 2 years with Mo and that we'd still have somewhat of the same player from last year. Now, I never expected him to do last season's numbers again because that was an anomaly and we did overachieve with him last season. And this season, yeah, we're certainly our goals for column in the Premier League's nowhere near where it should be. I think we've a +6, +7, something like that, which is kind of pathetic for this state of the season for a team with the amount of talent Liverpool has in it. James said, "See Slot at it again. The Rio not ready joke." Sorry, I'm taking my time for a minute because I've been trying so hard, James, over the last couple of weeks to keep my own strong feelings about the manager out of a lot of the content that we do on here. But every time he opens his mouth, mate, every time, it just frustrates me. And let me just say this quite clearly. If he doesn't play Rio Ngamoa from the start against West Ham, it's a huge, huge mistake. And it's a mistake that is only going to cause further divide, I think, between him and the Liverpool fans because everybody wants this kid to start. Everybody wants him. And as many of them have said, no one expects him to play every game between now and the end of the season. There will be times away in Europe where you will need the experience of a Gakpo or a Salah. But right now, at home against West Ham, and we're not really the attacking force we want to be. Like Carragher, as an example, reckons that we should drop one of the front four. So I don't know which one he wants us to drop, by the way, whether he's talking about changing the wingers, not having Wirtz operating in the 10 role, but he wants another body in midfield. And I can understand where he's coming from, because we are so easy to play through in the middle of the park. But this is only adding into my frustration with Arne, because even all this time later in the season, he still hasn't figured it out. And that, to me, is the biggest damning thing of all. Is that he hasn't figured out a way, as the season's gone on, to really get Liverpool playing well and getting players involved. It just hasn't happened yet. We're still too wide open. We're still too cautious in possession. It's just not good enough. And I'm not being drawn into or being fooled by some good wins and some bits of fortune, because the brand of football is dog shit. It just is. I'm fed up watching Liverpool games and just feeling nonplussed by it and just shrugging my shoulders at it. We know what we're capable of. We've seen it in small little glimpses. And the fact that he can't capture that energy, the fact that he can't get that into the players more often, because Anfield, whether you want to admit this or not, Anfield is a stadium that thrives off emotion. It does. Think of all the great nights over the years with Liverpool. Think of all the moments that have led to the fans getting on board. It's usually a crunching tackle, a goal, feeling hard done by somebody, or it's I can't be bothered with it. Like, it's just not an attractive brand of football, and this is not what we were told was going to be happening. So I'm torn, because of course I want Liverpool to win and be successful. I want us to win trophies. But I know deep down that every trophy he picks up is probably extending his reign a little bit. And I'm just, as a fan, not really enjoying the brand of football. It's hard work watching Liverpool games at times. And it shouldn't be. Rio could do with some more skills. Brazilian flair. I don't think he needs more skills, to be fair, Jaden. I think Rio's pretty capable in that department. Was Jurgen's gegenpress and taxing on our players? Yes, absolutely. And that's why you need a built-out squad. So I would understand if Slot said, I can't play with this system because it's too taxing on our players and we don't have a deep enough squad. But he's never said that. He just keeps trying to tinker things, change things, tweak things, and again, the engine's not purring, the engine's not running correctly. And yeah, there was certainly downsides and pitfalls, but here's my thing, right? So many times we win games late. We win games late, but we don't start them quick. And that's what I can't get my head around with Arne, is why are we so slow to find our way into games? You know, why not try to win these games early doors? Get the lads out there, 100 mile an hour. Like I've said, it's not rocket science. Try to win the game in the first hour. Put your efforts into that. And then you get to rest players. Then you get to rotate. Then you get the blood through the younger players. Just feels like, again, everything is hard work. Everything is dragged out, monotonous. It just, the more I think about it, I just don't think I am for turning on Arne. I just don't. It would take something sensational for me to turn it around, because I really just don't like his brand of football, and it isn't what we were expecting when he came in, and it isn't really what we'd seen in parts last season. And I say parts because there was still plenty of debate about us starting games too slowly. And you know, he was very good and is good at in-game tactical tweaks. I will always give him credit for that. But not getting the plan right in the first place has been something I think he's gotten off lightly with. Too many times he's been out-coached, in my opinion. Out-thought, outwitted. Chad, how are we, my friend? Said, it's tough seeing other teams in the league not waiting to change managers and then seeing those clubs improve. The longer this goes on, the more we fall. Exactly. Like, we won the game against Nottingham Forest, and that's cool. We won the game. We should be happy with that. But we could have lost the game, and none of us could have sat here and argued about it. As Carragher said, we could have been 2 or 3-0 down by half time, and we couldn't have really argued about it. Only for some teams haven't had their shooting boots with them, we would have probably lost even more. Carragher said something earlier on that I have to actually ask you guys about, because I don't know if I misheard this or if it's a correct stat. Because the season's been so up and down, it's hard for me to remember and keep focused. But he said that there was a point in the season where Liverpool lost 9 out of 12 games. Is that correct? Because if that's correct, and he said it on Monday Night Football, I think it was. If that's correct, that is an absolute fucking disgrace for a Liverpool manager. And that should have been the end of it. There shouldn't have been a debate. Like I said, I had to double take on it because he said 9 and 12. I just thought, what? Really? Was it that bad? Because, you know, I kind of exist week to week in what I do here, you know? I go through, plan for each game and go through, and I don't really have much time to reflect and look back on things until the end of the season because it's all 100 miles an hour. That's correct. I mean, how can anyone defend that? I mean, for the love of God, how can anyone try to defend a manager that lost 9 out of 12 games with the squad that we have? You know, we all joke and say, I could have done this, but I fucking could have. You could have. Anybody could have done better. 9 and 12. That is an absolute piss take. And I genuinely hadn't copped it was that bad. I may have mentioned it back then, but you know me, I told you all the time, my brain's full of holes and, you know, things go in and out because I've so much data being thrown at me and so much information every day that, you know, I often at times glaze over some of these things. But when he said that today, I really just kind of sat up in my chair and went, wow. Even I couldn't believe it was true. That's why I had to ask you about it because I didn't have time to check. That's crazy. Jaden said, the hate Liverpool fans get for hyping, bigging up Rio was crazy, but everybody else was doing it for their own wonder kids. Example, Yamal, Max, Pedro. It's fine. Leave them to it, Jaden. Leave them to it. You know, let Rio do his talking on the pitch. You know, we're going to big him up because we know what a talent he is. And it is hypocrisy. But look, I've always said it, bro. We're footy fans. We're supposed to be hypocrites. We're supposed to want their team something and do something else for someone else, or big up our players but knock down their players. It's part and parcel of being a fan. We know Rio's the real deal. And I honestly cannot wait to see this kid settle down. You know, one of the first things you're going to see in the new studio on our featured wall is a signed Rio Ingamoa shirt. Because I think that's how strongly I believe this kid's going to become the real deal. And he'll be on one wall and Steven Gerrard will be across from him on the other side. Was there something? Right, I want to run through some numbers because I genuinely have a lot of stuff to fly through tonight. I wanted to start off with the Dominic SZOBOSZLAI stuff, because you're probably thinking, right, Craig's officially now lost the plot. You know, we'd all thought it for years, but now he's confirmed he's lost the plot. Who Scored said that Dominic SZOBOSZLAI has the highest average rating at right back with a score of 7.29 among Premier League players to have made at least 7 appearances in the position this season. Think about that. Our central midfielder, who's played games at right back, has been ranked the highest scoring right back and who scored in the Premier League for players that have played at least 7 games in the position. 5th on the list was Diogo. 4th on the list, Jurrien Timber. 3rd on the list, Matheus Nunes. 2nd on the list, Reece James. And numero uno, number 1, Mr. Dominic SZOBOSZLAI, top of the pile. That's nuts, isn't it? That's not even his position. And he's already outperforming others. That goes to show the calibre of the man. And this is why, for the first time, I really feel any comparisons to Steven Gerrard are going to have some legs. Because not only from the number 8 thing, not only from the fact he's a driving force in midfield and pushes you forward, but that versatility. You know, I remember seeing Stevie G slotting in at right back in the Champions League final in Istanbul. I remember seeing him do it on occasion and doing it well. That is just testament to the absolute quality of Dominic SZOBOSZLAI and why we should move heaven and earth to make sure that he gets a new contract and stays at Liverpool Football Club, because he is legitimately a superstar. Right, don't forget our poll, by the way, if you haven't voted yet. We asked, do you agree with the view that Salah has fallen off this season? Yes, no, or unsure. Chad said, I believe 9 in 12 started with Palace and Galatasaray. Might need a fact check. Yeah, there was. Oh, look, mate. I remember we lost 3 on the bounce before the October international break, and then I remember we lost to United when we came back from that. So it's probably in and around that time, because that was 4 games on the bounce. So yeah, I'm sure it was probably in and around that time. Jaden said, I see what you mean, because Italy produces good centre-backs. Not just that, I remember Jaden hearing from a lot of footballers in interviews and stuff like that about their time they spent in Italy, you know, English players that went over there, or, you know, players from different leagues that moved to the Serie A, and they were always very complimentary of the tactical work and stuff like that they did, and the art of defending, and how impressive the art of defending was over there in Italy. So yeah, that and good nutrition and stuff like that is definitely something I would associate with Serie A. World of Naturalists said, that's why I don't understand why fans think Slot can turn things around. If he was that good, we wouldn't have a 9-game loss. He should have stopped it at 3. Most turned it. Slot is just a bad fit. So I agree. And also, I'm not being lulled in now, because we've got some good wins and I'm grateful for it. One thing I will absolutely give him credit for is he has turned the defence round a bit. I'll give him his credit for that, and his set pieces have improved. You know, I'm not just a hater. I try to give honest opinions, and you know, our defence has been better. It's great being able to win 1-0 in a couple of games. It really is. It's good to be able to score 1 goal and win a game of football. But the trade-off is always too extreme one way or the other. So too attacking, we're too open. Too defensive, we're not really creating as much. And I'm sick of hearing him talk about being unlucky. That word unlucky. There's been a couple of occasions I'd agree with him for being unlucky, but a lot of the time this season it's just garbage. Right, so here's the run of fixtures here that Keane sent on to me. So it started with Crystal Palace 2, Liverpool 1. Then Galatasaray 1, Liverpool 0. Chelsea 2, Liverpool 1. Liverpool 1, Manchester United 2. Then we had that good 5-1 victory over Eintracht Frankfurt. Then it was Brentford 3, Liverpool 2. Liverpool 0, Crystal Palace 3. Then we beat Aston Villa 2-0 in the game after he threw away the League Cup. Then it was Liverpool 1, Real Madrid 0 in the Champions League. Then we were beaten 3-0 by Manchester City. 3-0 by Nottingham Forest. 4-1 by PSV Eindhoven. Then we beat West Ham. We drew at Sunderland. We drew at Leeds. And we beat Inter Milan. So that's the whole run. And it's like, just look back at those scores and remember it. We lost to PSV Eindhoven 4-1. We lost to Palace 3-0. We lost to Forest 3-0. They're results that should get him the sack alone. Let's talk about Dom for a minute, because Sky Sports have done a good piece talking about the impact of Dominic SZOBOSZLAI this season. And they do a stat that shows minutes by position. He's actually played most minutes this season for Liverpool at right back, in position-wise. Most of his minutes for Liverpool this season have been at right back. That's mad. So he's played 834 minutes at right back. In his favourite central midfield role, 762. In the half spaces, or the right side of midfield, 354 and 62. Right hand side, 408. Left hand side, 86, and then 2 on the very far left hand side. Then there's most sprints by Liverpool players this season, and no surprise that Dominic SZOBOSZLAI tops that statistic as well. Hugo Ekitike has done 286 sprints this season. Cody Gakpo, 295. Florian Wirtz, 419. Milos Kerkez, 457. And Dominic SZOBOSZLAI, 513. No Mohamed Salah on that list, just for what it's worth, on the most sprints this season for Liverpool. And then it's possession won in the final third. And this is a damning statistic. This is a damning statistic of our performance against Forest. So of all Nottingham Forest games this season, by far and away, they won the ball in the final third more against us than any other team. So Chelsea, Aston Villa, Everton, Leeds United, West Ham United, they've won it 5 times in the final third. Against Fulham and Brighton and Spurs 6 times. Against your Liverpool, the defending Premier League champions, even though we won the game, they turned over possession 9 times in our final third. They won the ball in our fucking third 9 times. Now, Curtis Jones was probably responsible for at least 3 or 4 of them. But again, it just shows quite how bad we were for long swathes of that game. And there's another interesting thing, and I see somebody mention Wirtz's name. We don't win without Wirtz in the team. Some of the poor results we've had this season have been without Florian Wirtz. So Wirtz value increases was a piece on an Echo article. And it said it was one of the few remaining boxes that needed ticking off the Liverpool injury bingo. And Florian Wirtz being ruled out during the warm-up serves also to highlight the influence he's had on the Reds' attacking efforts. It's worth remembering Wirtz's only previous injury absence since arriving at Anfield saw him miss November's dire 3-0 home thumping against Forest and the even worse 4-1 loss to PSV Eindhoven that immediately followed. That was quite an interesting read. They go on to say, without the Germany international, Liverpool offered next to nothing going forward in the first half and precious little for large swathes of an immediately improved effort after the break against Forest. So, no Wirtz, we got beaten 3-0 by Forest. No Wirtz, we got beaten 4-1 by Eindhoven back-to-back. That shows you how important he is for this Liverpool team already. And how he is becoming the guy that we can't live without. Not Salah, it's becoming Wirtz. United have gone 1-0 up to chat are saying. Benjamin Šeško with the goal. Thank you for the update, folks. Right, so we almost have 1,100 votes on the poll. We'll leave it run a little bit longer. A little bit here from ESPN and Frank LeBoeuf talking about Alexis McAllister's performance. He said, he showed since he's been at Liverpool that he's a very influential player, but against Nottingham Forest on Sunday was the worst game I've ever seen Alexis McAllister play. That's thoughts on that one. Joey, how are we, bro? Said, I said this on the watch along, mate. We play to his personality. It's human nature. It happens in business too. A manager sets the tone and personality. Yeah, you absolutely did say it, Joey. In fairness, I remember you bringing that up, mate. I agree. And I've said it as well about having too many laid-back people in and around the first team, in positions of authority. It just, it's not us. It just doesn't feel like us. Jaden said, all we need is Dom as a centre forward and between the sticks. It wouldn't surprise me. Do you know what? I bet you he'd be all right in net as well. Yeah, I bet you he'd be decent. Now, I don't want to see him in goal, Jaden, but I bet you he'd be all right. United just scored. I know, I'd heard. But look, this is it, I don't like this. Let me state that again. I don't fucking like this. I don't like that we're sitting here having to worry about Manchester United's results. That's... Think about it. If we were to start this season and we were to say that we would be potentially behind United with 10, 11 games to go, you would have thought that I was either after losing the plot or somehow United have become brilliant. But the truth of it isn't that United have become brilliant. It's how poor we've been across the course of most of the season. And again, we're behind that team that still aren't very good. That team beat us at our own gaff this year. And they're not very good. So that's another indictment of Slot again for me. I can't. I can't. I keep trying, but I just can't. Right. I want to talk to you about a post that I'd seen from Toast Spur, and I watched the video, and he does say this in the video. So the Premier League CEO said this, and I watched the video clip myself, so I can guarantee he did actually say these words. He said, we have a strategic plan at the Premier League to put a new name on the trophy every 6 years. Now, we did go on to say, no, we're not going to try to stop anybody winning it, but even that as a plan, how? How do you come out so tone deaf and say that publicly? That we want a new name in the Premier League trophy every 6 years. It's a fucking league, mate. You should want the league to be somewhat competitive, yes, but you have no control over who wins the league, nor should you. Why have a vision of wanting a new name on the trophy every 6 years? I don't understand the optics of that. Or why you'd have that desire. Obviously I can understand they don't want the Premier League becoming a league that, let's say, United win 10 years in a row or Liverpool win 10 years in a row. I get it. They don't want it to be another La Liga. They don't want it to be another Bundesliga. But it seems like a very weird thing to hear the CEO of the Premier League come and say. One Touch said, because Man City keep winning. Well, then punish them for the charges that you've taken 6.5 years to fucking sort out. So if Man City's the problem, well, you've had plenty of time to sort that problem out. You've 115 to 130 charges over them. So, yeah. Maybe just do their jobs better there. Because the fact that that's been able to drag on this long is, again, nothing short of a disgrace. Any updates on Canade's contract? There was something a little bit today. I wouldn't call it a real update, though. L'Equipe say that Liverpool are not going to give up attempting to renew Ibrahima Canade's contract. Although Liverpool have not been able or prepared to match Canade's demands, the Reds are determined he won't go down the same route as Trent Alexander-Arnold. So, Liverpool, according to L'Equipe, don't want Canade going down to Real Madrid. They don't want him going down the route of Trent. So let's wait and see what happens. The vibe seems to be a little bit better, though. Over the last couple of weeks, people seem a bit more optimistic about the situation with Canade. But truth be told, I don't think anybody knows definitively how it's going to play out. Something else there that you guys... that I wanted to go through. What was it? Yeah, can't remember what it was. There was something else in my mind that I wanted to go through. It'll jump into my head in a second. Lee said, I don't mind the comment. The NFL shows it can be done. Maybe if you finish top, you have a transfer spend limit or other such things like that. That won't work, Lee. That won't work. They will be sued to oblivion if they try that. You know, the way the NFL is set up is built from the ground up to be around the collegiate system, to be around drafting, and there is no transfer fees really as such. So it's a very, very, very different model. And it's a model that obviously works for the NFL, and it is a model that keeps things interesting, but there's also pitfalls to that model. So I don't fully understand it, but I know there's such a thing as tanking, where some owners know there's nothing to be played for the season. You're not getting to the playoffs, so they almost kind of want to finish in a worse position to get a better draft pick. So that's not a great system either. There's pitfalls to it. And the way the Premier League is, if you try to do that, there'd be legal challenges to it. Because it would be against the laws of European free trade or something like that. I don't know what it would be exactly, but yeah, there'd be no way that that'd be allowed to happen. Jaden said, who would take pens and throw-ins when Joe and Mo leaves? Joe was the only one who wasn't good at them in pre-season. Dom took free kicks for Trent. It was interesting seeing that become an extra addition to our arsenal when he came on. Joe with the long throw-ins. I don't know. I'm sure somebody else can be thought to take a long throw-in. I mean, you're usually looking at a fullback, so you have to be Kirkes probably, or Frimpong, Bradley. I don't know. I mean, I remember we worked with, was it Thomas Grankmark? Was that the gentleman's name? Who was the throwing coach that worked with Liverpool and made a bit of a difference to the technique of some of the way they threw the balls in. And with regards to penalties, I mean, stick Dom on them. McAllister on them. Yeah, we've got some good penalty takers at Liverpool, in fairness. Right, let's talk Canada and Virgil for a second, because rightly, they've been coming in for a bit of praise recently and they deserve it. So anything Liverpool put up an interesting stat to say Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahim Konate are both in the top 3 for aerial duels in the Premier League this season. 133 for Virgil van Dijk. Aerial duels won in the Premier League this season. Number 1, top of the pile. Third on the list, Ibrahim Konate, who has 96 aerial duels won this season. So again, clear, concise evidence that both our centre-backs are dominant in the air. And it is something that we've long praised both of them about. They're brilliant at winning these aerial duels, and no more so than Virgil. It was like a magnet to the ball when it goes up in the air. Damon said, Craig, would you call Joe Gomez a Liverpool legend when he eventually leaves? No, I wouldn't say legend. I would be somewhere between legend and great, whatever the level is there, because he deserves a lot of respect, love, admiration for everything he has achieved at the club. And he's been a big part of it, but I wouldn't say legend. Personally, I wouldn't say legend. From the way we talk about a Kenny Dalglish or a Steven Gerrard, or a Mohamed Salah or a Virgil van Dijk. But a bona fide great from the club, like, deserves so much respect. And I'll always think nothing but fondly of Joe Gomez. Is the sports science part where we had less injuries? Well, that was supposed to be one of the big plus points for Arne Slot and Ruben Peters, that they had an availability of 90% plus for first team players of Feyenoord during their time there in the Eredivisie. And I give them credit for that being a big part of the reason last year why we won the Premier League, that he was able to keep the lads a little bit fitter for longer than perhaps Jurgen was in some seasons where the burnout was pretty clear. You could also talk about the refreshing of the squads and stuff like that over the years and adding in some, new, fresh, younger legs. But certainly the sports science has been certainly a big tick in the plus column when you were looking at Arne's managerial pedigree. It was something that was certainly written quite extensively about as being another plus factor for him coming in, that he was able to compete against clubs with bigger budgets in the Eredivisie with PSV Eindhoven and Ajax as well, and still have success there with Feyenoord. Paul Hudson said, I've noticed in many home games this season, Slot has walked past the main stand and no fan has clapped him. In over 30 years going to games, I've never seen that disconnect with fans and the manager, ever. I've said it all season, Paul. Despite what some journalists try to write or a relationship that they try to force, it just doesn't feel it's there, that natural connection. Now, I'm not saying there's a real disliking of Arne or anything like that. You know, it's just not hand in glove. You know, it just doesn't feel a real natural fit. Now, of course, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I'm certainly feel confident I'm speaking for a large section of the Liverpool fan base. So, Lewis Steele said, nobody's saying that Rio Ingamo is suddenly going to bang in 10 goals between now and the end of the season, but he offers something different. He makes defenders panic and retreat. That is, I've loved, by the way, and I want to give credit to the journalist this weekend for writing about Rio needing to start more games and get more minutes. I mean, full credit to them. It's about time, you know, it started to be talked about a little bit more, because whilst we understand protecting a young player, you can't not replace Luis Diaz and go through the season with just one real winger on the left and think that it's going to be okay, or you're not going to come up short. He has completely underutilised Rio this season. And still, according to Ian Lady of the Daily Mail, he doesn't think he's ready for first-team football regularly. He doesn't think he's yet fully ready to be a regular in the first-team action. And I disagree with that. I have no problem wanting to protect a youngster. You don't want somebody burnt out at the age of 26, 27. But you also don't want to hold the kid back, because he's not going out there and showing any fear, is he? He's going out there and playing with confidence and a swagger about him. And as Lewis Steele correctly said, he's making defenders worried. And I've said it to you guys for a long time. That's what we lack. We lack somebody to get the ball and run at defenders and put the fear of God into them. We often talk about, you know, low blocks and ways to break them down. Well, one way to break them down is by just bundling your ass into the 18-yard box and drawing a foul, or getting fouled on the edge of the box, or taking a man on and putting a ball in and getting a lucky ricochet or something, just forcing the issue a little bit, rather than just pumping in wasteful crosses to the penalty area from the half space that, you know, doesn't really do anything for anybody other than centre-backs from the opposing teams lapping them up and clearing them. Jaden said, can't wait for the Flash Speedster on Saturday. Well, I hope he gets the start. I really do. He'll certainly be going in my predicted 11. Jimbo said, if we play the ball over the back line faster, like years gone by, Salah's drop off, is Salah's drop off as extreme. Hard to lose the ball so much if they're chasing you. I think if I put that question, Jimbo, to Arne, I'm sure he'd probably say something about teams sitting with a low block and there not being space for Salah to operate in behind. And there's probably truth to that, you know. But like I've said, low blocks aren't something new. They're something we've struggled with for as long as I can remember watching Liverpool Football Club in the Premier League. Certainly under Jurgen's time all the way through, low blocks have been something we've had a problem with. Now, low blocks have become more proficient and they've become more utilised in the Premier League this season, as it's had a bit more of a defensive structure to it. But I just put that into the damning stats for Arne again, because he was given the keys to unlock that low block. He was given a Vert, he was given an Ekatike, he was given a Frimpong, he was given a Kirkes, and still scratching around trying to find solutions or a way for Liverpool to look comfortable. I want to talk about psychology in a minute. Give me about 10 minutes and remind me to talk about psychology for a second. And I mean from a sports perspective. There was an interesting thing I read earlier on about the relationship between football club and its fans. that I wanted to bring to you guys. But I know we're going to get an influx of people in when the United game's over, so we'll hold off on it so I don't have to repeat it for you. Jason's St. John said, Craig, you're spot on. Thank you, bro. I don't know what I'm spot on about, but I'll take it. I'll take it, mate. I'm sure it was probably one of the Salah things we were discussing. Right, bit of a transfer link here for a minute. Transfers.com, and this was posted by Transfer News Live, said Liverpool, and we talked about this guy the other day, Liverpool are monitoring the progress of Leeds United centre-back Jaka Bijol. The Slovenian is seen as a replacement for Ibrahim Kanade, who they say is likely to leave Anfield at the end of the season when his current contract expires. Now, I don't think that he's likely to leave at the end of the season. I think it's unknown whether he leaves at the end of the season, but this is a name that we spoke about the other day as being somebody that Liverpool have looked at. So again, anybody who's watched much of Leeds United, please do let me know. I'll be asking a couple of Leeds fans that I know about this guy because, you know, again, I won't sit here and tell you I've watched all that much of him. Right, let's talk about Curtis Jones for a minute. Jamie Carragher was speaking about Curtis Jones and said this: Curtis is always taking too many touches. He needs to be sharper. That's been an issue for his entire Liverpool career. He's always wanting too much time on the ball. And then Anything Liverpool posted to say Curtis Jones made 3 errors leading to a shot versus Forest, the most by a player in a single Premier League match this season. And I was saying to you guys earlier on that Forest won the ball back in our final third 9 times. 9 times. You know, you've seen it for yourself in the opening half. They were hunting in packs, they were closing us down, and they weren't giving us space to get out. They were doing to us what we should have been doing to them. And as many journalists have wrote in their match report since, you would think it was Liverpool that was playing midweek in the Champions League in Europe away from home in Turkey, and not Forest. They look far fresher and fitter. Jeff Porter said, Craig, on Leeds, I've been impressed by Stack. Do you think he'd be a good fit for us? I know he hit a nice free kick. And Emi Martinez took the piss with a one-man wall. But apart from that, I don't know, mate. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of non-Liverpool football unless it's a Super Sunday or something like that, or Champions League. I just don't have the time. You know, I try to take in as many games as I can, but if I do, I'm usually a casual viewer rather than sitting there zeroing in. Now, I've started to do a bit more research on Yan Diamonde as those links grow and increase, so I can have a better understanding of his level. But yeah, I don't know on Stack, mate. I haven't got a clue. Right, let's end this Salah poll. So 90% of over 1,400 people said yes, they do agree with the view that Salah has fallen off this season. And 6% were unsure, and only 4% of people said no. Think about that. 1,400 people voted, and only 4% of those people said no. That's, yeah, that's sad, really. Said, but we feel this way, that it's gotten that way. Because I remember, hand on heart, when he signed that contract last season, I didn't expect to fall off this season anywhere near what we've unfortunately seen. Now, again, there are mitigating factors to it, and the Liverpool being poor this season is not on Mohamed Salah. It's just another Arne factor that I'd like to, discuss, because so many things have been firsts for me. Losing by 3 goals, 3 games consecutively. That's a first for me as a Liverpool fan. That 9 games in 12 that we spoke about, that's absolutely mental. Any other manager would have been marched out the door. Any other club would have marched the manager out the door. Phil, good night to you, mate. And Badruddin, I think I said, seeing a second ago, you were saying good night as well, my friend. Good night to you. World of Naturalist said, as I said earlier, Slot has to take responsibility for yesterday's bad game. Instead of training, he gave everyone a holiday, and look how the team performed. Guess he wanted a break. Tell me the logic. I don't mind the idea of giving the lads a couple of days off, but I wouldn't be doing it again, because what, like you've said, it didn't exactly have the desired effect, did it? It's not like they got a mental break, came back, and were at it from minute one. So, you would like to see, I'd like to see some data on teams that are in a rhythm, like, let's say, Forest, who are in that 2 games a week, versus us, who had 8 days between the game, because you often hear managers rightly saying they want more time on the training pitch, they want more time to work on tactics, they want more time to go with the game plan, and usually they're rolling in every 3 days and a very little time to work. A lot of it's recovery. So yeah, it's not great that we had 8 days to prepare for it and started the way we did. So I agree with you. I don't mind them giving the days off, but I think he'd be within his rights to then walk in and go, well, that ain't happening again, lads, because you had the days off. We tried to give you that bit of time to rest, and that was still the level of energy that we got in the performance. Just not good enough. So if I was in his shoes, I wouldn't be doing that again. You've got to earn the right to have that downtime during the season. Chris Shaw said the players were given some time off before the City game too. Really doesn't work great for us. Never really has. Yeah, I certainly remember the results after some of the warm weather training camps and stuff not being where we would have wanted them to. We almost, had a bit of a running joke about it. Irish boy, how are you, mate? Good evening, Craig. Hope you and the family are well. Best of luck to the new studio. Keep up the great content. Thank you, my friend. That's lovely. Yeah, really excited about it. I think I don't know whether I want to try to get into it before I go on holiday, or whether I want to come back from holiday and then start straight into the new studio. Fresh mentally, hopefully with a bit more of a suntan, and go from there. I feel like that's probably the way I'd like to go. Maybe do a bit of a soft launch, do one video or something from it before we go, but it's really close. At this point, it's just a matter of a few small details. Hanging a few things on the wall, picking out a chair. Other than that, we're pretty much good to go. Messing around with some of the lighting. Yeah, I'm excited to show you guys. I really am, because it's your studio. Without you, we don't have it. Without your support, I don't get to do it. So it's your studio, and as we were building it and going through each stage of it, and we were talking about where things go, how you guys would receive it is being at the forefront of my mind, thinking about it. I want you guys to think, well, if I ever go to Craig's for a cup of tea or anything, I'd feel happy sitting out there having a chat. Yeah, I know that sounds a little bit silly, but genuinely, that's how my family think of you guys. We don't think of you as strangers from the internet. We think of you as people who genuinely we bring in for a cup of tea if you were around. Like, you've given us so much, and helped me so much as a human being. So yeah, I want to give that back to all of you guys as well. So I hopefully have the framed Anfield Agenda jersey to show you soon. It's at the framers at the minute, so looking forward to getting that back, and having that on the wall as well in the studio. World of Naturalist said there was a story that breaking the rhythm at all the time doesn't help. This is not the first time Slot has given the team a break to this season. Never helped so far. Slot keeps doing it. Jason St. John, thank you, bro. Very kind of you. Appreciate you. So United won. Okay, so that's done. So United won 1-0. So that means they are 3 points ahead of us, and we are still in 6th place in the league, but we're within 3 of United. Look, we're better off than we were a couple of weeks ago, but we're still in 6th place in the league, whichever way you want to dress that up, So we got to get our skates on. Look, we know the run of fixtures that we have are ones that you would expect us to be doing a little bit better in. West Ham, Wolves, and then Spurs. So I'd expect some decent results. Elks said, Craig, could I send you a Cincinnati Reds jersey or an Ohio State jersey to put in the studio or hide in the studio just for yourself? I'd love it. Oh, mate, I'd love that. Chad has been so kind. Chad Husker, a gentleman that's been in the chat earlier. Chad has absolutely, oh man, he's turned me into a Huskers fan for life with all the stuff he sent over, like caps, hoodies. I love it. I love anything American like that. Any American sports, I love it. So it would be an honor to put something on the wall, mate. Don't know what space we have left on the wall, but I promise you I can find somewhere for it. So anytime, bro, anytime, it'd be an absolute honor. I love that. I love mementos of you guys in there. You know, little trinkets and stuff like that. Yeah. Thank you. That'd be amazing. Right. You mentioned psychology. Thank you, Martin. I did indeed, mate. Thank you for reminding me. Right. So I read a really interesting piece earlier on, and it was in the Times newspaper in the UK, and it was about the crowds that go to Twickenham and rugby, and it was about the price of tickets and how basically it's not what it should be. You know, the atmosphere isn't what it should be. And there's a section from it that I pulled out that I wanted to say to you. And it's Stephen Smith, who's the chairman of the British Psychological Society's Division of Sport and Exercise Psychology, addressed this recently with the BBC. And it really, really rings true to me. He writes that previously there was almost an agreement that existed between fans and the club. They wanted you to come in and support the team, wear the colours and support the boys. They weren't going to rip you off in terms of cost. Clubs nowadays have changed that model. That psychological contract between the club and fans is broken. And it really hit home to me because we've spoke about the commercialisation of football, the cost of tickets, the increase in hospitality. I've spoken about my own time supporting Liverpool, having been able to pay the gate when I was younger, all the way through to having to pay £700 sterling to watch Manchester United play Liverpool at Anfield in the hospitality section. And that little bit there from Stephen Smith, I thought perfectly encapsulates the frustration that we all now feel. We don't feel like we're part of something anymore. We don't feel that same sense of belonging to the clubs that we support. We feel like customers now. We don't feel like community. We don't feel like family. We feel like customers. And when you start to feel like customers, I guess psychologically, you demand more. You demand entertainment. You demand value for that money. And if your team's not performing well, you aren't getting that. And basically, the whole point of the piece was to talk about the increase in booing and stuff like that. And I think it all comes down to this. You know, in any sport, when the price of attending that sporting event or anything, comedy, music, when that goes beyond your reach as a fan, it brings resentment. And when you have to pay as much as you have to pay, you expect then to be entertained. You expect to be treated well. And football clubs are this really weird psychological environment where owners almost know that they can piss on fans and fans are going to just kind of accept it, shrug their shoulders, buy things and carry on because of their love for the sport, because of their love for their team. And that's leveraged against us and we're rinsed for our money now. And then you get told, and this is why I'm so strong in my aggression towards people who try to say support your local, or you're not entitled to an opinion, or you're not a real fan, or you're a sofa fan, or any of that other bollocks that we get thrown at us for not being lucky enough to be able to buy a season ticket or go week in and week out. But that contract has been broken, like Stephen Smith has said. You know, clubs now don't look at us as, sure, come on in, wear the colours, you know, buy your shirt, we're glad to have you here. Now it's almost like you're being pit against other fans for the luxury to be able to buy a ticket, and then you're usually paying over the odds for that ticket, and then you're sometimes going, like we keep coming back to this game. The League Cup game where Liverpool put out that appalling team and we were beaten. People went and paid their hard-earned to go to that game. People went and travelled far and wide to go to that game. And that's how little they were thought of. They weren't reduced price tickets. That wasn't a concessions event. People paid, travelled and went. And our manager stuck two fingers up to them by putting out a B-Tech team in a trophy because he wanted 3 points against Villa. And that's what we're talking about here, that psychological contract. If you want us to buy in, then we have to feel like we're belonging. We have to feel like we're part of it and not just another customer that you can rinse. So I think, again, to read out what Stephen said, previously there was almost an agreement that existed between fans and the club. They wanted you in to come support the team, wear the colours, support the boys, but they weren't going to rip you off in terms of cost. Clubs nowadays have changed that model. That psychological contract between club and fans is broken. And it's getting worse. Remember, now you have to buy a club membership to be able to have the luxury to buy tickets. Now they're looking to bring in personal seat licenses where you have to pay for the luxury to be able to buy a season ticket for that particular seat. So you buy a license that enables you to then buy a season ticket. Fans are being absolutely fleeced and it's never ending. And again, they keep talking about fan behaviour getting worse. Football clubs are just fucking rinsing people these days. They talk about pirated television. They talk about pirated shirts. Well, at the same time, saying with a straight face, 120 quid for this season's kit, please. You know, you want to kit your kids out. You want to draw the next generation of footy fans in, and you're pricing them out. Not only are you pricing them out of the stadium, but you're actually pricing them out of wearing the kits now as well. You're pricing them out and you're doing damage because you can't then go and afford Sky Television. And it isn't just Sky Television anymore. It's Sky Television, TNT Sport, Amazon Prime, DAZN, and it goes on and on. And here's the kicker. You still can't fucking watch every game. And if you have to watch every game, you have to break the law to do it. Because you have to use, you know, some way to circumvent the blackouts. So that really struck a chord with me when I read that article in the Times earlier on. Because it's spot on. And I think this is a reaction to fans feeling like they're just fed up now. You know, yes, maybe the booing has increased a little bit more. But as Stephen said there, it's because that contract has been broken. You're no longer the local guy. You're no longer the plucky fan. You are now a customer. That's it. And that, despite all the PR bullshit, that is it these days. And that's why I feel so comfortable criticising a lot of stuff, because we aren't treated with respect as fans. We aren't. We're milked. We're fleeced. We're pitted against each other for tickets. So yeah, I thought it was a really interesting piece anyway. Matt asked, can I park the negativity? I think, Matt, to be fair, if we look through this stream, there's been ups and downs, mate. I've spoken about the positives from the defenders and the numbers. Spoken about Rio Ingamoa in a really positive way. Maybe you're just choosing to pick out the negative parts that I talk about. But answer me this, am I wrong, Matt? You might not like me talking negatively about it, but am I wrong? Is there anything I've said here tonight that isn't right? Because I can't just invent a reason to be happy, bro. And Liverpool Football Club right now is hardly filling us all full of the joys of spring. It's a slog, mate. So I don't think I'm being negative. I think I'm just being realistic. But no, in answer to your question, I won't park it up now. Because these are things that I think need to be discussed and talked about. Football gatekeepers don't care about those facts. Yeah, I know. There's it's weird. There's like these moral levels that certain people feel they're entitled to. And I'm sorry to keep banging on it, but I really, that struck a chord with me, that part from Stephen Smith there about the psychology of that relationship being changed forever between fans and clubs now. Yeah, we're not going to let you have that comment. You're not going to come in and belittle somebody's religion. Grey Artex, mate. That's just not going to happen. Yasin, how are we? Sorry, Layla, I missed that earlier on. I hope you're well, and sorry for missing the comment initially. Thoughts on the Spurs disallowed goal yesterday? How do I say this? I think I just about agree with it, but it was another embarrassing Arsenal exaggeration, and I don't want to say the word cheating because it isn't cheating, it's play acting. And Gabriel should be ashamed of himself. But I do think it was probably just about a foul. Yeah, I do think there was a bit of a shove in his back, but like I keep saying, you wouldn't do that walking down the street with your missus and kids if somebody bumped into you. You wouldn't fall to the ground like Gabriel did there. So, yeah, I think it was probably a foul, probably the right call, but the state of the way he acted it out. Elk said, same here, Craig, for the World Cup. I want to see Messi in the round of 32. The cheapest ticket is $1,300. And for the NFL, you need like 6 different services. It's crazy, man. It's like, and they want loyalty, and they talk about us, and they talk about it. It's crazy. You know, football used to be the working man and woman's game, where you worked in the factory or whatever at the weekend, and you got your half day on the Saturday. You went to the football, and that was it. And you know, then it's been taken away from normal people, being priced out of the thing, and kept at a distance. And then even at a distance now, they're still finding a way to make you feel belittled. Do you think the players are not performing because of the World Cup? They don't want to be injured. I would hope not, because you know you still want to make sure that you're chosen to play for your country. Um, So no, I mean, I can't speak because I've never been in that position. You know, I've never been called up to play in a World Cup for my country, so I don't know if it plays in the back of your mind. But you know, I would imagine for a lot of those players, it's I want to make sure I'm in the manager's thoughts. I want to make sure that the manager thinks I'm doing well and that I should be bona fide a selection for the World Cup. I certainly wouldn't accuse anybody of trying to save their own legs or prepare for it, but you know, these guys are paid a lot of money to do their job, and I would never accuse them of willfully not trying to do it. Who's your top 4 Premier League era Liverpool keepers? Oh goodness. Alisson, Reina. I can't remember. Was Grobler still Premier League in '92? I can't remember if Brucey played Premier League or not. I honestly, for the life of me, can't remember if he was finished before '92. Um, Probably if he was, if Grobler was, if I'm allowed to say Bruce Grobler, then I'd say Alisson, Reina, Grobler, Dudek, maybe. Um, you know, David James, I was never really overly fond of as a keeper. I thought he had too many mistakes in him. Yeah, that's kind of probably it. Sander had his moments. I was never able to take the Sander Westerveld. I don't know what it was. There was something about him that just rubbed me up the wrong way, and I was never really able to warm to him. Absolutely idolised Pepe Reina. Love that man to bits. Jerzy Dudek, you know, I feel like had an incredible career filled with an amazing moment for Liverpool that we'll always remember fondly as well. But it's Alisson by a long, long way. JC said, yesterday's performance makes me really worry for top 4. It wasn't great, mate, yeah. I still think we'll get into it, and we need to start saying top 5 this year because it is top 5 for us at this point. But it's a fair point you've raised, because that was us with 8 days to prepare, and we relied on another bit of drama late on. Now look, fair play for the boys for going and getting the result, and you know, not letting their heads drop when that first one was ruled out, and still having enough about them to go up the other end and get the winner. And Dominic SZOBOSZLAI, as Carragher did a great bit of analysis on it, really did take his time to find the right moment to deliver that ball in for Verge's header. So yeah, well done on that, but don't disagree. We were so far away from what we should have been. A working class sport becoming a penchant for the privileged and middle classes. World Cup a case in point. I mean, I can't really speak too much to the World Cup situation because Although I've seen the reports of it, I've not been in the process or tried to get tickets, but I certainly know many friends in our Discord and stuff that are from the States that looked into the cost of it and just seemed exorbitant, the prices of it, like just over the top. Um, and it's so short-sighted as well, particularly with football clubs. Like, one thing I will always give Everton a lot of credit for is they want to bring in the next generation of Evertonian fans. They want to get the kids from Liverpool into now the Hill Dickinson and get them supporting the team. You know, best of luck trying to get your kids into games at Anfield or, you know, some other top teams. It's very difficult, and I think sometimes very short-sighted that there isn't that focus on that next generation of fans. You can't take for granted that people will just always be there, always be fans. I think you have to, and I'm sure that the clubs do behind the scenes do stuff, putting in the groundwork, but yeah, difficult to get that next generation interested. And you know, you even look at it, like I came into football because I started playing football. So I started playing football as a kid, and then, you know, found my club and fell in love with the sport and the game, and it grew from there. But with less and less kids really active these days and out and about, I wonder how many will naturally find their own way there. Or is it going to be left to parents, you know, like myself and probably your good selves as well, indoctrinating their kids into the Liverpool way? Malty said, I sort of understand high prices. A football club is a business and wages these days are huge, and that must come with some unfortunate to us. Yes and no. I mean, I'll take you back to a comment from, I don't know if it was Karl-Heinz Rummenigge or somebody else from Uli Hoeneß or somebody from Bayern. And they said that ultimately, yes, they could charge more for tickets, but they don't feel they need to. Because, you know, that revenue compared to the likes of television revenues, broadcast revenues, Champions League prize revenues, Premier League prize, clubs could charge less if they wanted to. They really could. Like, if you look at, I don't have the numbers, but I remember seeing reports before about the actual revenue, the percentage of revenue generated from ticket sales. There's definitely wiggle room there if they really wanted to. But like, here's the kicker for me. What I think they'd actually like to do, a lot of owners of clubs and football clubs right around the world, is get rid of season tickets, because season ticket holders don't go into the club shop every week. Season ticket holders don't, you know, book out the hotels every week. They don't spend a lot of money and food at the game, because, you know, they go every week and they spend their money to support the team by buying the ticket. And, you know, the one-off fan that comes over for a game would naturally, you know, pop into the club shop to pick up some souvenirs and stuff like that. So I can see a time where if they thought they'd get away with it, 'cause don't forget, these are the same people who signed you up to a Super League without any fucking consultation and told you this is happening until fans said, no, it isn't. So I don't doubt for 1 second that many clubs owners would happily remove season tickets. Craig, do you know how much a season ticket costs for Liverpool? Remember, you're only guaranteed the Premier League games. To the best of my recollection, it's about £860, I think. Something in and around that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's in and around the kind of right level for the cop or something like that. Yeah, based off my interactions with people in Discord and Reds that I know of season tickets, kind of around that. The only chance I would have had in my life to get a season ticket was the Carlsberg dugout when that was done. There were season tickets. I think you had to buy them for commit to 2 or 3 seasons, and at the time I wasn't in a financial position to be able to do that. If Elise doesn't work, who would you think is most likely to come to us? Oh, mate, I really don't know the answer to that one. Yeah, I really don't know the answer. I feel Elise is the dream, and after that, it's probably going to be somebody who I don't really know that much about, or somebody who I've yet to really pay much attention to. Um, yeah. Hell Scouts Raid said, I forgave FSG, that yellow rose touched the soul. Yes, that absolutely, definitely not placed there on purpose. Yellow Roses that didn't have a camera angle above John W. Henry's head, pointing down at him to make him look older and more frail. That whole apology video was. I sat down with a PR executive and walked through that video, and it was an absolute ABC of fuckery of how to look like you're sorry. Uh, Underarm Forehair said, "Hey Craig, hope you're okay. Managed to get tickets for the West Ham game. Got a 7 hour drive from Cornwall up. Fingers crossed everything goes well. I think that should be a game you're gonna get the W. Hopefully you get to see young Rio as well, mate. But well done to you. And wow, what a drive! 7 hours up from Cornwall. I've never had the pleasure of going down to Cornwall. Never been in that part of the UK. But yeah, safe travels and do let us know how you get on at the game. And I hope you get the result. For all of us, I hope you get the result. Right, I'm going to run through the news. So if you've just joined us, if you've come in late, I'm going to run through everything from start to finish for you. So bear with me. We're going to start off with Lewis Steele and some reporting around Rio Ingamoa. He said, nobody is saying that Ingamoa is suddenly going to bang 10 goals between now and the end of the season, but he offers something different. He makes defenders panic and retreat. Then we talked about Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahim Kanade and a good post from Anything Liverpool that show Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahim Kanade are both in the top 3 for aerial duels in the Premier League this season, bossing it at the back. Virgil van Dijk has made 133 successful aerial duel wins, 96 for Ibrahim Kanade, again, just showing how good they both are aerially. Then we had Jamie Carragher speaking about Curtis Jones. He said, Curtis Jones is always taking too many touches. He needs to be sharper. That's been an issue for his entire Liverpool career. He's always been wanting too much time on the ball. And then Anything Liverpool posted above it to say, Curtis Jones made 3 errors leading to a shot versus Forest, the most by a player in a single Premier League match this season. And that, when Jamie Carragher said that, that's been something that's been criticised of Curtis Jones for his entire Liverpool career. I would dare to say I think he even means at the underage level, because it was certainly a talking point when Curtis Jones was coming through that he wanted more of the ball. Now, I always put it down to the fact that at underage levels he thought he was the best out on the pitch and he wanted it from an arrogance perspective. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Same way when Carragher was speaking about the footballing arrogance of SZOBOSZLAI, he didn't mean it in a negative way. I mean, Curtis Jones was just backing himself to say, give me the ball, I'll make something happen. But you don't get that much time at senior football, and that's still something that has been criticised, and I think fairly criticised, of Curtis Jones' game. Squawka, no side has scored fewer early goals than Liverpool this season in the Premier League, having only scored 2 goals in the first 20 minutes of games. But on the other side of it, no side has scored more late goals with 15 than Liverpool in the final 15 minutes. Why do it early when you can do it late was the post from LFC Transfer Room. I mean, I'd like to answer that. Do it early because you get to rest players. You get to rotate. You get to give young lads a chance. I get the idea of the post, and I'm not criticising them, but I would much rather, as a Liverpool fan, to see us start games quicker, win it earlier, and give the manager the opportunity to rest up players at 65, 70 minutes and then bring through younger players. Also, transfers.com said Liverpool are monitoring the progress of Leeds United centre-back Jaka Bijol. The Slovenian is seen as a replacement for Kanade, who they say is likely to leave Anfield at the end of the season. Then we had the highest average possession in the Premier League this season. Again, another great post from Anything Liverpool. Liverpool topped the pile with 60.8% possession. Then comes Manchester City, 59.2%. Chelsea, 58.5%. Arsenal, 57.6%. And Newcastle United with 53.5%. Lewis Steele writes, a few times in 2026, Rio Ingamoa has come on and done something neither winger on the pitch had been able to do in the 80 minutes beforehand. He makes defenders retreat and panic. Then we had Ian Ladyman of the Daily Mail saying, I think it's of the Mail, excuse me if it's of the Mirror, I think it's the Mail though, said Arne Slot doesn't really think that Ingamoa is quite ready for regular football. And I'd be interested to know your thoughts on that. Maybe we'll run a poll on that actually. One sec, I'll do it now. Okay. Okay, so I want to ask this question, and I've put the word regular in all caps because I wanted to emphasize that in the sentence. Do you think Rio is ready for regular game time? Yes or no? And we'll check back in on that before we finish up. Then we moved on to the Premier League CEO saying, we have a strategic plan at the Premier League to put a new name on the trophy every 6 years. That's concerning. I don't know why he came out and said that publicly. Now, we did say, of course, we don't want to stop anybody winning it. They're not trying to say we're going to go out of our way to stop Liverpool, City, or whomever winning the title. But it just feels like a very weird thing to come out and say publicly that strategically we'd like a new name on the trophy every 6 years. I mean, I think there would have been better ways to phrase that, to say you want to keep the league competitive and stuff like that. Then Who Scored said Dominic Szoboszlai has the highest average rating at right back with a score of 7.29 among Premier League players to have made at least 7 appearances this season in the position. So Dominic Szoboszlai tops the pile. Then comes Reece James, Matthias Nunes, Jurrien Timber and Diogo. So best right back in the league. There you go. And he's not even a right back. Then anything Liverpool, I feel like I've been talking a lot about their post tonight, so they must be absolutely on the money, and credit to them, it's a great account. They say that Salah's finishing falls off a cliff, and they go through the percentage of his goal conversion rate. So this season he's at a goal conversion rate of 8%, where before we had 22%, 16%, 14%, 2 seasons in a row of 17%, 15%, 16%. Last season was an incredible 22%. But this season, just 8% for Mo. That's a big drop off. Then we had a piece from the Echo that was speaking about the impact of Florian Wirtz on the team. He said it was one of the few remaining boxes that needed ticking off in the Liverpool injury bingo. Florian Wirtz being ruled out during the warm-up served also to highlight his influence on the Reds' attacking efforts. It's worth remembering Wirtz's only previous injury absence since arriving at Anfield last summer saw him miss November's dire 3-0 home thumping against Forest, and even worse, the 4-1 loss to PSV Eindhoven that immediately followed. Without the Germany international, Liverpool offered next to nothing going forward in the first half and precious little for large swathes of an admittedly improved effort following the break. Then we moved on to Frank Leboeuf, who was scathing in his assessment of Alexis McAllister's performance. He said, he's shown since he's been at Liverpool, he's been a very influential player, but Sunday against Forest was the worst game I've ever seen McAllister play. Now, I think McAllister's had worse games, but I do think this season has been a season where we haven't seen the best of Alexis McAllister. Then we move on to L'Équipe, and they say that Liverpool are not going to give up attempting to renew Ibrahim Konaté's contract. Although Liverpool have not been prepared to match Konaté's demands, the Reds are determined he won't go the same route as Trent Alexander-Arnold, i.e. he won't go to Madrid. Then we talked about Dominic Szoboszlai's minutes by position, and the most minutes this season have been at right back, which really surprised me with 834 of his minutes being there. Most sprints by Liverpool players this season. 5th place, Hugo Ekitike, 286 sprints. 4th place, Cody Gakpo, 295 sprints. Then comes Florian Wirtz with 419 sprints. Milos Kerkez, 457. And guess who's top of the pile? That's right, Mr. Dominic Szoboszlai with 513 sprints this season. Then we talked a little bit about a damning statistic from the game against Forest, which was possession won in the final third by Nottingham Forest. And they turned over and won possession 9 times in the final third against Liverpool. That is more than any other team they faced by a margin of at least 50%. It's shocking. Then, of course, we just did the part a second ago about Stephen Smith, the chairman of the British Psychological Society's Division of Sport and Exercise Psychology, addressed this with the BBC recently. He said previously there was almost an agreement that existed between fans and the club They wanted you to come and support the team, wear the colours, support the boys. They weren't going to rip you off in terms of cost. Clubs nowadays have changed that model. That psychological contract between clubs and fans is broken. So that is pretty much what we've covered over the course of tonight's stream. What's this one? Right, let me just open up this. Ian Ladyman said Salah was running in sand in the second half, and it must be said that he hardly seemed to be trying. After one particular half-hearted amble down the right, Slot decided he'd seen enough and hauled him off. Wow. That's, fuck. Genuinely, that's not great. What do we think? Would we agree? Do you think Salah put in a lack of effort? Difficult for me because I don't get to follow the games as intensely at times as I'd like to, and I've only got a chance to watch back the highlights of the game last night rather than watching the whole game again. But I'm going to go back and have a look at this to see if Ian's right on that one. JT Cliff said Craig Rio may not be ready for regular starting position and be the number one in saying that, but he's definitely got ready for 10, 15, 20 minutes regularly, which he may have got if not for the rubbish all season. I think now, for me, JT, I think what you've said is very sensible. But I would say right now, he should be playing against West Ham. That's my take on it anyway. Rio should be given the nod to start that game at the weekend. J. Bob Sad said, McAllister be dreaming of Madrid. You can't tell me he wants to leave. Imagine your best performance being against the team that you want to go to. Jamie Moore said, will Chiesa leave? Yes. Yes, mate. There's been a few reports over the last week that suggest that he may well leave, yeah. And I think it's probably right for everybody concerned. Sorry, I just want to forward something on to Connor. Rio Ekitike Salah would be good. That's exactly what I would go with for the game against West Ham. Yeah, I would go with that. And if Salah isn't pulling his weight or isn't up to the levels, then, I would move Rio to the right and put Cody onto the left. Or, is there anything to be said for not having an inverted winger? Is there anything to be said for the left-footed player on the left side and the right-footed player on the right side? How many chances has Mo had? Has that fallen off too? The amount of chances he's had. I don't have that number to hand, but I would dare say yes, it has. Yeah, I would dare say it has. Now, I don't know. I think they had one shot between him and Gakpo yesterday in the game against Nottingham Forest. But yeah, I don't want to give you a wrong answer, so I feel like the answer would be yes. He's had less shots this season, but I don't have the numbers to hand. But the conversion rate is an interesting one because that takes account of how many chances you've had. Like, the conversion rate is how many times he's got the ball, had a chance to score and put it in the back of the net. So, that being as low as it is still worrying. Coldman. So I think Ryan has got away with a few of his performances this season. A lot of people criticising Mo, Gakpo, Kanade, Maka, but not Ryan. Well, I don't know. You've probably seen a couple of my videos recently, Coldman, where I've done just that and said that exactly what you've said. Ryan has gotten away with it a bit this season. And he's not a natural number 6. Now, last year it worked, but a lot of stuff was working better last year. This year, I think it's showing that we need a bit more physicality in that position. Right, let me just 1 second. So, Keane, those two things that you've sent me, which season's which? Because I don't have the years to know which one's which. So the percentages, I just need to know which percentage is which year, which is last year, which is this year. Nick, Raymond, welcome to Anfield Agenda FC again, my friend. Appreciate you renewing your membership, Nick. Thank you. Kilo said the only reason I would bench Gakpo and not Salah is because on their day Salah is better than Gakpo and it's not even close, and that Gakpo is just frustratingly one-dimensional. Absolutely, I don't disagree with that at all. Right. Okay. Yeah, sorry, Keane. I probably should have noticed the goals part, mate. I was just looking at the shot. So, on that, shot map this season, Salah has a 27% shot accuracy. So he's had 49 shots, scored 4 goals, and has had an XG of 6.03. So he's underperforming his XG, and his shot accuracy is 27%. Last season, he had a shooting accuracy percentage of 47%, took 130 shots, scored 29 goals, and overperformed an XG of 25.4. So he's underperforming pretty much, most metrics that we've seen this season. Not even in the, you notice when I went through the sprints earlier on, Salah's name isn't on the list of the top 5 sprints for Liverpool Football Club. Damon, so Craig, I had to watch losing the gold medal final against the US and that horrible Liverpool performance. At least Liverpool got the win though. So, and to be fair, Damon, I don't have anything to celebrate from the Winter Olympics as an Irish person, but I didn't see it. I seen that America won 2-1 in overtime or something like that, but ice hockey really isn't my thing. Nick, do you bin this season in May or do we revisit it? What do you mean, do we bin the season or do we revisit it? I don't know what you mean by that, Nick. If we're talking about the manager, bye-bye, if that was the question, but I don't know what you mean by do we bin it or revisit it. It's definitely feeling like it's not going to be a memorable one. Is that what you're asking? Are we going to have a moment where we get that trophy? I think we probably have a chance in the FA Cup, but I struggle to be sincere to say we've a great chance to win the Champions League. I have to say it's possible, because of course it is possible, but I definitely don't sit here with a level of confidence that we'll win the Champions League. FA Cup's possible, but yeah, we are now still sitting in 6th place in the Premier League, and that's something that is just unacceptable. But like I've said earlier on, we did close that gap, so it is better than it was. But yeah, it just still feels a little bit demoralising that even after the recent couple of wins in a row and that we're still in 6th place, be it only on goal difference now. Hakan Nazun said, Craig, do you think Liverpool team has to play from the middle side instead of the wings, like Phil Foden or Messi? I don't think we use width enough. I really don't. I don't. I've said it many times. I don't think we use the full width of the pitch anywhere near enough. And it's one of my gripes with inverted wingers as well, is that they're obviously more likely to cut inside, and then you're relying on a fullback for an overlapping run. It's just a cyclical thing in football, and I'm wondering, are we getting back to a stage where we maybe won't see as many inverted wingers? Because there's something to be said for mixing up your attacks as well. Am I on till 11:30? No, I'm just about to finish up in the next 5 minutes because I'm going to record a news update video with a few bits and pieces that we went through tonight and a few others that we didn't. Yasir, I'm good, my man. I hope you're well. Nice to have you in, bro. I hope you're doing well. If I can ask a little favour from you guys, though, if you can hit that like button for me, that would really be appreciated. The more the merrier. It certainly helps push the channel out there. And also, don't forget to enter our giveaway. If you haven't done it yet, scan that QR code in the bottom corner or just head into the Anfield Agenda WhatsApp with a link in the description of this stream, and we're giving away that signed and framed Jurgen Klopp shirt in 5 days' time. We'll probably be announcing the winner after the game against West Ham at the weekend, which is nicely the last day of the month. So we'll be giving away the Klopp shirt then, and then we'll be announcing a new giveaway in March, obviously with thanks to our friends at the Collector's Corner, who are giving us a signed item every month in 2026 to give away. This patch reminds me of the start of the season where we didn't play well but got lucky with the results. Yeah, absolutely, Robert. And let's hope that cycle doesn't continue where we then end up in free fall for a little bit. Now, I don't think it will, to be fair. I don't think it will. Craig, here's something. Is Mo playing badly because of the comment you read out yesterday about Diaz saying he left because Slot is a horrible man? I've never been able to find that quote, nor have our moderators or Discord, so I can't say that quote's a real quote because we can't find it. So I feel it would be really unfair of me to go in on Slot about something that, I don't even know exists. Hi. How are we? And welcome in. Craig, would you go more strong team-wise in the Premier League or the FA Cup when we play Wolves twice in 3 days? Both. There's no wiggle room now. There's no time for fall off. Both. If you beat Wolves, you're in the quarter-final of the FA Cup. So, yeah, I'd go strong in both of them. I'd treat it as if it was a Champions League game and a Premier League game. I'm not saying you don't make 1 or 2 changes, but I certainly wouldn't be going weak. Did you see Kanade's acrobatics? Yes, it was a very well executed cartwheel from Ibrahim Kanade. Certainly, you won't be seeing me do one. Let me put it that way. So he's definitely got me on that one. Coleman said Craig, got a bad feeling Ibu will go to Madrid. Well, the reports about that from L'Equipe say that Liverpool are determined he won't. So L'Equipe write that Liverpool are not going to give up attempting to renew Ibrahim Kanade's contract, although Liverpool haven't been prepared to match Kanade's demands. The Reds are determined he won't go the same route as Trent, and they mean to Madrid. So look, we're going to finish up with this poll. If you haven't voted yet, we'll give you another minute or two to vote. We're asking, do you think Rio Ingamoa is ready for regular game time? How's your YouTube career been going, Craig? Have you been enjoying being on YouTube? Though on YouTube Live overall, in your opinion, and apologies for asking. How's my YouTube career going? Good. Can't complain. Yeah, pretty consistent. Starting to feel back like myself a bit more. I had a couple of physical things that I had to work on over the last few months that were causing me problems. Yeah, I'm good. YouTube's going well. It's it's a quiet-ish time for Liverpool content in general. There's not as much excitement around, but we're still doing very well. Compared to our contemporaries, if you want to say that. We're still chugging along, and yeah, I'm happy. Like this month has been a pretty quiet month. To be fair, it's probably our quietest one of the last 12. But other than that, I can't complain, my man. Really enjoying it, and looking forward to moving into the studio. Certainly, like I said, I feel more like myself recently. I feel mentally stronger. Right. A couple more votes and then we'll knock this one on the head. We're already about 8 or 9 votes short of 600, and then we'll call it a night, and I'll go record that news update video. Apologies for the questions. Mate, you can ask me anything. If I can't answer it, I won't answer it. If I can, I will. Never for you. Everything's on the table. You can ask me anything. If I don't want to answer it, I won't. But most of the time, I've no problem answering anything. I was only thinking about that the other day, actually. Is there anything that I wouldn't talk about publicly? And I can't really come up with much, to be honest with you, outside of, relationship activity, shall we say. Outside of that, I think I'm pretty, yeah. Craig works too hard. He needs to take a few more days for himself. I don't like taking time off. I don't. It doesn't go well for me. I usually try to fill that void by doing something that somehow ends up costing me money. So, and driving my wife insane, as you probably heard her shouting in there now. So, yeah, I don't like time off. I think he missed the super chat according to somebody in the chat. Let me just check. Yes, sorry, I did miss this one from this gentleman. Desperately need pace, and guys are shouting Elise. Are you trying to say Elise is not a good player? I mean, Rio can provide some pace. We can bring in another forward or two that can provide pace. Would you not think it would be good to bring in Elise? Because I think he's absolutely exceptional. You know, can't say I know off the top of my head what his running speeds are. Now, I'd be a liar if I told you that, but mate, I'd take Elise in a heartbeat. I dare say I think most people would be delighted if we did get him. Right, so 85% of people said that they would be supportive or believe that Rio is ready for more game time. Craig, how long have you been doing the Anfield Agenda channel? Because the first clip I've seen of you when Yaldum goal versus Barca. By the way, what a journey you've been on. Fair play to you. Love this group. Thank you, man. I think we're at it since, I thought it was 2017 or 2018. One or the other. I think we're 9 years this March, if I'm not mistaken. Next March, to the best of my recollection, will be our 10 years on here next March. So we've a year and a bit to go to that. And certainly we'll plan on doing something to celebrate that milestone if we get there. I think Redmen had 15 years this year, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So credit to them. That's longevity as well. Yeah, I want to be the first Liverpool YouTuber to get 1 million subscribers, though. I really fucking do. I'm not going to lie. I really do. And I refuse to cheat and buy them or, you know, be that guy. But I'd love us to get there. I really would. That's probably the one thing I feel like I've left to really achieve on the YouTube side of it is get that gold plaque. Right, ladies and gents, I'm going to say goodnight and go record this news update video. I will see you guys tomorrow. And yeah, appreciate you.